come and be a part of this. Lord, we just pray that your hand be upon us in our decision making, and we do everything to glorify you. Just pray for our city, that we continue just to do things that we're called to do for the city. Pray for this meeting tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Silence my cell phone. We have a short agenda tonight, Adam. Is there anything need to be changed or adjusted? All right. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as written? Billy Barnfield moves to approve. Second? Second by Grady. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Is approved. Everybody has received minutes in your package. Is there any changes to the minutes as written? No changes? Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
Who was that? Cisco moves for approval. Jeff Parnell seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes. This is the time of the meeting where we have a public forum. It allows the citizens to come and address the commission in any way. If there's anybody that wishes to address us, now's your chance. I see no one eager to stand up and come forward, so I assume that there's no interest in that.
They're on the discussion items.
I'm
They're
sorry?
with the discussion items.
Okay. Do I have a motion to close the public forum? So moved by Ms. Wheeler. A second? Second by Jeff Parnell. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Forum is closed. Item number 4. Cedarside at Dry Creek Session requests performance bond year extension and reduction. Anybody here to represent this item? Adam?
All right. This is a bond extension request. Dry Creek at Cedarside Phase 2. They got the phases labeled backwards. As you can see the picture, they've actually done a lot since last year. Kind of the status they're in. You see, basically, you see both sides of the road block with construction equipment. They're building on both sides of the Louisville Road there. Current bond is $225,000. It expires July 2nd. The developers asked for a bond reduction and a 1-year extension to $164 based on estimate of remaining items to complete. Our Public Works reviewed their request, and they requested to be $190,000 instead. What we do, we always look at, like all the curbs are in, out of the roadside curbs, but we always hold like a percentage of that for any damage during construction. So that's what the additional $36,000 through our Public Works request is for. It's roughly about 58% completed of the project. 62 units, 36 are done, 11 are under construction. This time last year they were at 22%, so they've done a lot of work. Remaining project items will include the final asphalt paving, striping, some sidewalk, finish grading, so finish type items, which they're not ready to install quite yet due to they still got several units left. So our options would be approval of the requested bond reduction and extension based on Public Works' review of their request at $190,000. That'd be my recommendation. 2, we could do approval of a 1-year extension at the current bond amount and add 2% inflation. Number 3, we could do approval of the 1-year bond extension and amount determined by the Planning Commission based on what we talked about here. Or 4, we could deny it and direct them. We will not allow any more bond extensions, and they'll have to complete the improvements. But it's progressing pretty quick down there. So maybe this time next year they'll be further along. They get the final improvements done. But our recommendation would be to do it at 1-year extension and increase it per Public Works request to $190,000.
Okay, any discussions on this? Yes, sir.
Can it be less than a 1-year extension?
Oh, we could. I don't think they'll be ready.
You don't think they would?
I mean, they're at 58%. If they've got permits, they got 11 under construction, they got permits for 6 more, but I don't see. We could always, I mean, we could do a 1-year extension and say they give you all done by December. They could come in and request acceptance even before the 1-year period.
I remember one time we did that a 6 months time, and it seems like it got overlooked at the 6 months and it expired, and so that was years ago, but I believe that we decided we don't want to do that anymore.
1 year is your typical, but.
So you see the motion options, and the city and staff recommends making the bond reduction to 190. Do I hear a motion on this issue?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the 190.
Okay, Billy Barfield moves to accept option number 1, which is 190,000 for a 1-year extension period. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wheeler. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is approved. Item number 5, Sky Pediatric Dentistry. Request site plan approval for 6,711 square foot dental office on 1.63 acres at 3106 Business Park Circle. Anybody here to represent this? If you'll come forward. And if you'll tell us your name and address, and then Adam will take it from there.
My name is David Elliott. My address is 435 Seneca Court, Bowling Green, Kentucky, 42103.
Okay. And we'll let Adam take it first, and we'll come back to you. All right, Adam?
All right, the property in question is the highlighted one here, Business Park Circle. A couple of new buildings built adjacent to it. Site plan, you come in a single access point, you're building a wraparound. They do an interesting business. They actually do dental work for special needs children. It's a lot of stuff, actually can do it in the vehicles. So it's pretty interesting learning about their business. This property, like a lot in this area, it's kind of in the Masker Creek backwater area. So what we've done with all these projects over here, they have water quality. They don't really have water quantity designs. This has got a pervious parking with underground drainage systems for their water quality. On the design here, you can see that's these areas here. There is, if you've been out there, there's some trees along the side. They are preserving some of the trees. It's not really a creek. It's kind of more of a drainage area that comes off the street, but it's over time it's wooded. But they're leaving a lot of that. You see in the lime green area, of course, fully landscaped site. The building, kind of unique looking building. I think it's an interesting design that meet our requirements of 50% brick. It's a little over that. It's like 55% on the whole building, but they're mixed in with EFS materials. A lot of people like that. So it's brick on all 4 sides of the building. This will be your front. This actually, the front has probably the lowest percentage of brick just the way, because they got a different stone look around the windows. They kind of want to really have a strong front on the building itself. Motion options, approve the site plan since it meets our commercial design guidelines and our zoning ordinance, would be my recommendation. Deny the site plan based on the plan commission determination during the meeting that the site plan does not meet these requirements, and any items remaining, we'll need to let them know if they can make revisions, or 3, we could defer the request, include additional information. We do have the consultant engineers with OHM here that reviewed the plans for us, and actually there was no stipulations left on this. They completely revised with the revised plans, so.
Okay, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I don't think so. I think he outlined it perfectly.
Okay, well, there might be some questions for you, so I'll open this up to the board for any questions or comments.
What was the reason for the underground?
Though our water quality requirements, they have to show based on our ordinance. It's a form of detention, but it's not the level like a 100-year detention pond. It's just there to infiltrate the groundwater There's different ways you can do it, but that's their design. We used to require so much treatment with our stormwater ordinance.
Right.
All right, if there's no more questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion for item number 5. Jeff Parnell moves to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. McNeil. Any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I didn't have y'all here.
Well, that might be a record.
All right. The rest will be discussion items. The state legislature earlier this year passed a new state law. It goes into effect July 1st. That basically any city that, I think it's $250, each city charges more than that, city or county, a fee, you have to justify it. You got to keep a record of your justification for it, and if anybody wants to see it, you have to be able to provide that. Our fee schedule for these related items, planning-related items, were adopted January 22 by the City Commission. Our fee schedule for our department includes building permits, stormwater, but really this board, I just wanted you all to kind of review this, just to kind of meet the state law, what we do for. Right now, we have 2 levels of fee that come before the planning commission. If someone comes to turns in a subdivision plat that doesn't require the planning commission's review, it's $300. So that'd be minor stuff, minor site plan amendments. We'll see small additions around when they had to do a plan. That's the fee for that. Then we have a deal, if it comes to the planning commission, there's a $600 fee on top of what we would do. Like this site plan that just came before us, they paid $600 application fee to the planning commission. Then we charge $1,000 to cover our consultant review fees. How we base these fees are on the planning commission review fee. That would include rezonings, annexations, anything. And sometimes we have to do, we've started doing letters. If it's a rezoning request, we do, of course, the agendas. Sometimes we have to do advertisement. So that's what that fee is for. The consultant fee, the $1,000 consultant fee, I took a couple examples because we'll do the initial review, revised review. Sometimes there's a call. Sometimes they even have to review it a third time. So our average fee on that from the consultants was around $1,000. Sometimes like this one, they reviewed it twice, but the plans were in pretty good shape. So, our consultant fee wasn't that. So I had to take a kind of average what we did. So that's where we base that $1,000 engineering review fee based on our 2 consultants we use. We vary them out, and then the planning commission fees based on our costs, to run the meeting and stuff. So I feel like our fees are pretty reasonable. A subdivision plat comes in, we'll charge it $600 if it comes before the board. I know a lot of places will do like per lot fee, but we do a standard $600 fee when it comes to the planning commission. The rest of those fees there, you'll see there for books and copy of maps, but most people, I don't think we've charged that in years because everything's online now, so we hardly ever had that request come in. We do have a thing in here about a zoning verification letter. If somebody needs a letter that says my property's zoned R25, we don't usually charge for that, but sometimes they'll come in, they want to know the non-conforming history of it, the permit history, and we'll have to compile information and we'll charge them the $25. There's a field inspection fee. I don't think we've ever charged that separately. If someone gets a permit for a project or they pay a review fee, that covers our cost to go out there and look at stuff. We're not charging them an additional field inspection fee on top of a building permit or a plan review fee. I don't know if that's ever came into play, but someone demanded we come out to look at something not associated with the project. There was a way we could charge them for our time to come out there. But I just wanted to, based on the new state law, just give a basis of how we calculate our fees, how we come up with that fee schedule back in 2022. But no action for this board, just document it. So, and these are existing fees, so any new fee we come in, we'd have to go through this same process. So.
What would be the temporary use permit?
A temporary use permit, carnivals, fireworks tents. Oh, and I'm sorry, we also have some variance requests. That's the Board of Zoning Appeals. You all don't review that, but they do. And those fees are to cover the cost of advertisement and the letters also, so. Yeah, this is our current one. We hadn't changed it since then, so.
Adam, I know that with stormwater, there were various forms created for municipalities such as Goodlettsville, and we're, of course, under subsection D's our applicability as a municipal government. Have they provided any formatting or forms from the comptroller's office or anywhere where you would be able to keep sort of a consistent form for them that's potentially subject to their audit?
I've not seen anything, I don't know if
Okay.
Tim's seen anything.
The law, this actually came from the Home Builders Association. Well, none of it really makes a lot of sense. You only have to give this to a developer that asked for it only one time. So, with that said, the sponsor is someone I know and respect a lot, and I'm not sure why it was even introduced, but it flew through the House and the Senate in a hurry, so that's where we are today.
All right, if there's no question, I can move on to. All right. Tonight we got two groups here. We wanted to talk about an interchange overlay for two different properties. Kind of interesting. I had one, then a second one. The first one is the Arby's property. Y'all familiar with that? It's been closed for a little bit. Here's the property in yellow. The interchange overlay, of course, the dotted red line. And there's a question here about possible expanding the uses. Due to the size of the properties, it's kind of limited with that. Right now, it's in the interchange overlay. They could do a gas station, service station, which is really property limited on being able to do a gas station. They could probably do a convenience market without gas. Hotel, motel, or they would not be big enough to meet our minimum room requirements. Restaurant drive-in, which that is what it is now, so it can continue that. And the wireless communication facility, I guess that'd be like a cell tower or something like that. So that's not really a use of the property that they're looking at. So what their proposal is to amend the interchange overlay to include additional uses. We discussed with them, the goal was to have tax generating property. That's the city's goal. That was the point of the overlay. So they come back with some ideas like retail trade, and they're here, I'll let them explain it too, but like retail trade, like a Verizon store, or any kind of little shop store. Personal services, like a hair salon, the FedEx, a dental shop, financial consulting and administration, that would be a bank, anything like that, a real estate office, and then auto servicing. And what they were proposing, lubricating services only, like a Old Times Babylon, one of these quick express loop kind of places. So that's what they're requesting. These four uses will be in addition to the existing uses that are there. Of course, this will require a zoning ordinance amendment. So tonight we're just discussing it because I know I'll explain to them the history. There's been similar requests in different areas, but that's how we bring it up for a discussion now. So they're here if you want to. Let's pick one.
Hi, my name is Bill Seeley, owner of Restaurant Retail Properties, and 545 Mainstream Drive, Nashville, Tennessee. And I also have the ownership of the property here, Mr. Mark Henderson and Shelley Henderson. And their family developed the Arby's there and have owned it for quite some time. And as Adam explained very well, and not to hold you guys up anymore, we're just here to just openly discuss with you guys and have your feelings on what could be expanded as far as the uses there. Unfortunately, after the Henderson family gave and dedicated some of their property to the expansion of Long Hollow Pike, it got us down to 0.8 acres. And as Adam said, with the uses that are allowed now, really we're relegated to just a restaurant and a restaurant drive-through. And so our hope was, especially since it's on Conference Drive, is that maybe we could apply something like the Exit 98 uses, overlay uses to this property to where we could have expandable uses for it. And a lot of the reason that's a burden on this property is just, again, because of the size. Most of the restaurants today, unless you do the coffee shops, they can fit on 0.8 acres very well, but even the quick serve restaurants and the fast casual restaurants of today, like the Panera Breads and Even Starbucks today, you guys have seen their line, what they experience over there. It's hard to get them on less than an acre now because they need a 25-car stack in their drive-through, and they just do so much business. They just need a bigger site than what they used to be able to do. Used to, we could develop a Starbucks on 0.75 acres, but it doesn't work anymore. So with that burden on it, we've just hoped that the city would work with us and give us some more of these uses so we could get it redeveloped. And to give you a little bit of what I'm involved in, I'm under contract with the Henderson family to purchase it, to hopefully develop it, redevelop the property. Maybe a user that could come through there and we could get some use out of the building, but most of the users that we develop for today, they really want you to use their prototypical building. For example, Chipotle, when you see their growth, it used to be that they would convert a building, but now they've gotten to the point to where they really want you to tear it down, build their prototypical building, because their kitchen layout, their sales floor, their seating and everything is they really streamline it to get those customers in and out fast. And so it's just really hard to make that work for a restaurant, but also if we can't have some of these other alternative uses that we can work with there. And I know over the years that we've been developing, we've been in a lot of cities and a lot of different states, and I've always found that the best way to do it is to come before you, see what your thoughts and your concerns are, and try to make it a partnership as you go into it and try to redevelop it. And it typically ends up a better situation at the end of the day, in my experience. So that's why we're here tonight, just to have this discussion with you and get a little direction before we come before you formally to ask anything. And I'm happy to answer any questions, explain any more as to my thoughts and anything that you guys might have questions about. I know Mr. Henderson will be happy to as well, to show you, talk about any history with the property or anything like that that would be beneficial.
I'll open up to the board for any questions or comments.
Hey, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Seeley.
Yes.
Heard nothing but great things about you, so I appreciate your time and efforts in discussing with Adam and the planning department. Do you have anybody in mind right now that's you're kind of looking at?
We do have a couple of financial institutions that are interested in coming to Goodlettsville, and I know I've heard some of the history on what happened on Long Hollow Pike, and I really kind of get what you guys were saying there. You have a limited amount of frontage on Long Hollow Pike, and you're trying to get as much retail sales as you can for the tax benefit there. But our hope was on Conference Drive, that might be something that you would allow there, but especially like general retail trade or the auto service. And I gave kind of the example, that would be one of the users that I think would have interested there, is one of the fast oil change locations. And they do some nice looking buildings now and pretty good business. And but they would be a good tenant to fit on that 0.8 acres. And we do have some restaurants also, but don't have anything nailed down on that yet, but that's a possibility.
But you're saying most of the restaurants, they're saying that the lot is not necessarily big enough for
No, sir, I haven't had
standards?
any specific restaurants that's looked at it that said that, but just knowing from development over the years, and that's what we do.
Okay.
And to get the national tenants that can pay enough to really do what needs to be done to value the property for the Henderson family as it should be. You really need to get those credit tenants, Chipotle, for example. Done one of those. I've done over 50 Starbucks in the Southeast, and so spent a lot of time with those guys and kind of seeing how they've changed. But even like the Chick-fil-A's of the world, they've got to be 1.5 acres or 2 acres these days, and it's just really hard. And especially since COVID came, they really have to have that drive-through to be successful and comfortable. Not knowing if that could ever happen to them again, but so that takes a lot of sight away from you, as you well know.
Thank you so much.
And I believe that, tell me if I'm wrong, that one of the reasons for the interstate overlay was because we were being inundated with financial institutions. Is that correct?
I understand it. I wasn't here when it happened. I understand they did it to kind of protect the interstates and the business, but also there was concern about some possible check catching type facilities, which we have regulations different, separate on that now. That's my understanding. This would require, we're talking about options, I always do when people come in, would they be open to a zoning map amendment to pull it out? I would think an ordinance amendment would probably be preferable, because you actually got the Cabuto property and the Red Roof Inn in it also, if you did want to, pull the map line back. But an ordinance amendment, I guess, would be what they're requesting to allow a couple more uses. We did it on exit 98. Exit 98 is a little different deal, just the way the access is and the visibility, but, it's kind of got people thinking of the other exits also, so.
And the lending institutions that we work with today, like I'm doing a development for Chase Bank now, and they can work on a smaller site. They do a wonderful building. It's not cheap. I don't know that they're getting the best deal on it, honestly, on their building costs, but that we did a ground lease, and they're actually building their building on that one. But they do a really nice building, and I think it would be a benefit as far as the aesthetics of it, and just having some of the names that I would be working with there. That would be a part of the community here, so you could count on them. It's not somebody that wouldn't be very strong financially. And so that, and they really have gotten to the point now where they want to be on those hard corners and good sites as well, and retail corridors to do their locations. The other one that I'm doing has a Starbucks next to it and a Chase Bank on the corner, and so it's kind of what we focus on, and would love to work on here, but really need, as a buyer for the property, just need some expanded uses. It just can't justify buying a property that's 0.8 acres and with that limited amount of uses. Unfortunately, we can't, service stations today that we work with are 1.5 acres to 2 acres. Hotel motel won't fit, and so we would basically have a piece of property that could only do a restaurant and really just a drive-in restaurant that would fit on it.
Adam, I think you made mention of this, but we kind of know where the direction of this request is headed. You sort of made mention that rather than changing the use of the entire district, it would maybe be a better process to remove this property and the Cabuto property. Would that'd be one method to get the end goal?
Yeah, definitely.
Rather than saying where our Shoney's is, where obviously there was discussion why not to have a financial institution there, but obviously they would allow it now, based on the requested.
Yeah, I guess that's what
Addition.
makes this request different, in that it's on Conference Drive versus Long Hollow Pike. If that's what the planning commission thinks, they think they got a point, and then it probably would be something to look at the map, but it would have to take out a couple properties.
Mr. Seeley, are you going to purchase this property if those uses are changed to what they were there?
Yes, sir, that's my full intention. We're still going through due diligence and some things that we're working out, but that is my intention.
Regardless of lending institution, you'd still,
It makes it tougher. That's something that I know I can get started on. The others, I think I can get. I don't have that in hand, but I have had discussions and do have interest, but you just never know. Once you get the process started, you have to make sure they can site plan, and then they'll do their operations justification of the volume that they can anticipate. And so I don't want to tell you something that I can't deliver on, Tim.
Yeah, that'd be a question too, to the planning commission. They've requested 4, if you feel more comfortable with 1 and 2, and that's just what the request was, based on their history or knowledge of the project, the property, so.
Mr. Chairman, with us having the bank we shot down at Shoney's, there would be a hard no for me to, turn around and approve this for number 3. So that's my input.
We hear from our citizens routinely that the desire that they have is for more restaurants. we cannot force a developer to take a property and build a restaurant on it. Some of our citizens think we can, but we can't. We cannot just change the zoning on a piece of property and call Texas Roadhouse and say, come build one, we want you.
All right.
But to sit in this chair and to have an existing restaurant zoned to be a restaurant and have a citizenry begging for restaurants, and to make a decision to change the zoning so that it won't be a restaurant anymore, I can't even begin to tell you how big of an ask that is of us. The vitriol that we would face from our citizenry, the anger that we would see from them is astronomical. This is not just a small request. I get that you might see it that way, but what you're asking is for us to look at every citizen of Goodlettsville and tell them, we really just don't care what you want. And I'm not willing to do it.
I understand what you're saying, and I know what y'all have been through, but you kind of are telling us that we have to do a restaurant there because of the way the zoning's so limited on this parcel, and not trying to be argumentative at all, but just to discuss it openly. And so that's what's struggling for us. And, you know, you had a restaurant operator that developed there and was a part of the city for a long time, and now they've got a property that's going to be really significantly burdened and financially, you know, unless that exact restaurant comes along that I can make work there and fit and make a deal work there. So, I get it, like I say, on Long Hollow Pike with just such limited frontage before you get into the floodplain and into Sumner County, that you'd be more protective of that. But I really hope that maybe there'd be some consideration and maybe the citizenry would understand, and I know that's a big if as well, that Conference Drive might be a different situation because Long Hollow Pike is where the restaurants would want to be if they had the choice, honestly.
It's hard to tell somebody that a restaurant won't fit where a restaurant was.
Yes, sir. I get that.
The difficulty is, and if you came to us a year from now and said, I have been trying, I have worked with this restaurant and that restaurant and this one and that one and this one and that one, and we get the same information from our economic development group and the staff here and say, yeah, we've watched them, they've tried, they've been turned down over and over and over again. We don't want this to just continue to sit vacant. Okay, at that point, we have some basis for a citizen that's coming up and yelling at us, okay, we tried. We gave it a valiant effort. We don't have that cover right now.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying that I mean, I don't know. I've probably made some controversial decisions up here. So I'm not immune to do that. But this one is, I would want to see some effort to try to get a restaurant before we give in. It's just me, again, I'm one guy.
No, I appreciate your
That's where
thoughts.
I'm at.
That's why we're here tonight, is just to hear the struggles that you're having and try to figure out how we can make it work for all of us. None of us want a vacant building there. I mean, that's...
Right.
I would agree with Jeff, with the exception is I can see where this is a small piece of land. It would be hard to fit something on there.
Yes, sir.
And today, you know, so it's, I wish it was a little bit bigger. And
Yes,
then
sir.
I'd be a hard no, you know.
Yes,
You
sir.
know,
It'd be a lot easier for us, really,
now
sir.
I'm a little flippy floppy. And I personally miss Arby's there.
I do too. I love Arby's.
Yeah, so, you know,
It's funny, they're building new ones now, I see, and then I see them closing a lot of them too. So it's just
Yeah.
interesting, and of course,
so,
the Hendersons can speak to that a lot more. They've run them, and I admire anybody that's a successful operator of a restaurant. I've always said that.
Captain D's and Arby's was a one-week thing for me. So what's our role here tonight? Just to discuss, to give
Yes.
guidance, to?
Yeah. Yeah, basically, for you all to discuss it and them to read, to think, is it worth them making a formal request, come in next month to request either a map amendment or a zoning ordinance amendment? I know y'all can't make a decision tonight, but just based on your discussion, their feelings about it. If there's any.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I just say, I kind of concur with what Mr. Barnfield's saying. We went through the deal with the bank on Long Hollow,
Yes, sir.
and I know you're probably going to be squeezed tight for even a bank on that piece of
It's
property.
tight.
I actually wouldn't want to see an auto service or a quick loop on that corner either. We've only got so much property left in the city to take advantage of and to develop, and like Mr. Parnell said, everybody wants restaurants. I want restaurants too, and I know that there's hoops to jump through, and so, but I just would want to be open with you and let you know that I wouldn't be for those two options being added to it.
And I also have just to let you guys know, I'm sorry, I forgot, David Abbey's our civil engineer. Been working with him since he started his company years ago. So we're both getting gray, but I did bring David just in case you do have any questions, and not to just take my word for it as far as the difficulty of the size of the parcel and what we do. David works with a lot of the national companies and does a lot of layout for other developers as me as well. So if y'all have any questions regarding that, I'd be happy for him to answer them. I'll answer them a lot better than I will.
Can you put the proposed okay. I guess my question, just so that, it's not a question to you, Billy, for this board is, would any of these be amenable to be included in that district while he's, thinking through and working through this?
In addition, we would maintain what's there now, but the new possible permitted uses.
My question is all of 1 through 4 already permitted on Conference Drive?
Outside of the old place would not.
Outside the overlay?
Outside the overlay, everything but item 4.
That's what I was thinking, okay.
Yeah, because we got several banks and stuff in that area,
Right, I
just
know we got
outside the
banks, but
overlay.
I don't know, I didn't think auto servicing was up.
Mr. Ellis, if he's asking us as a board, as myself, I could understand number 1, number 2. I will say, owning a salon myself, I could see where it would be, that overhead would be a tough expense.
Yeah, sure.
But
I was trying to come up with some examples in there. Don't have one of those, but it just something I thought about as far as the use. And I will say, if you guys don't mind, but I've done the Take 5 oil changes and I've done the Valvolines, and they really do a nice building now and a lot of retail sales out of those stores. And they would be a great use to fit on that side. But not to argue with you at all. Please don't take it that way. But
And I want everyone, I'm not asking to sway the board's will. I just, while we're here having this discussion, there was more than just lending institutions that was on that list that probably needs to be touched on.
Ms. Wheeler, do you want to say something?
I'm just going to be nosy.
yes, ma'am.
Waldo's Chicken and Beer is all over town. Very successfully, I might add. And have you all had any conversation?
Most of those are
Yeah.
getting bigger as well. It's like like I said, the Chick-fil-A's obviously, and then also the Raising Cane's. They go on the much bigger sites with the bigger drive-throughs, and there's Waldo's that's coming now. That's coming to Nashville.
The Waldo's I've seen are about the size of the Arby's lot, because they've gone to Crystal or Captain D's lots, the ones I'm familiar with, and have been very successful in those smaller spaces, which is why I was wondering if you all had talked to them at all.
I have not contacted them. Like I say, I really haven't nailed down a restaurant. I've got a good idea who I want to put there, but just trying to get kind of anything and everything that is a possibility so I can get to work on finding a good tenant for us to develop the property. It's real hard. Like Panera Bread, for example, they've really gotten to be a bigger footprint and have the drive-through now. They are talking about, a lot of the restaurants are talking about trying to scale down on the square footage because of the operational cost of the real estate. Everything is so expensive. So that's one of the things that we're fighting as well, but may help us in this regard. I know Panera Bread has a new prototype that's getting smaller, but I think the parking that they'll require, that's what we have to be careful of. I've developed a lot of retail centers, and I know some guys that like in Knoxville, the whole Rob development up there, they came in and did a lot of centers in Knoxville, but they underparked them. And that's a death nail to an owner and a business if there's just not enough parking there to give them, enough to do business so people aren't coming in there and fighting to get a parking space to try to get in the store. So, and I haven't seen a freestanding prototypical plan for like Waldo's, but I'll look at that and just see what their size is and their constraints and be happy to share it with Adam.
I'm Shelley Henderson Green, my brother, partner. I take all the phone calls on who's interested, and that's how I got in touch with Bill. To your point on the chicken, I did have quite a bit of conversation with Wingstop. I don't know if you're familiar with that prototype, but it's kind of a smaller, not a drive-through. I mean, they have a seating inside, but it's mostly takeout, and it wasn't big enough. So that's our problem, is the restaurants that can afford the overhead of this site, it's just too small. And so I agree with you on the chicken and the restaurants. I agree with everything that's been said here tonight. It's just that particular property. It's like you couldn't put a yogurt store in there because they can't take the overhead. But I do take all of these calls, and most of them are restaurants. They come out and they look and they bring their engineers or somebody from their franchise department, and it's just too small. So that's my little 2 cents.
And like Shelley was saying, I'm working with Jimmy John's franchisee. They're doing freestanding buildings now, and they can go on a smaller site, but I think I'm losing the deal because they can't afford to pay what I paid for it now, to be honest with you. And we had bought that site thinking that we had a Take 5 oil change, and unfortunately they went to another site on me after we got close to doing the deal. So just sharing some of my examples, not trying to act like I know everything, but just sharing the things that we fight every day to try to make a successful development.
Are there any other comments from the board?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm Mark Henderson, and I live in Cadiz, Kentucky, so I'm one of the owners of the property. So I was just curious, when was the overlay adopted in that area? Do y'all have any knowledge?
I can confirm, I remember in the 2013 timeframe.
2013. So the exit 98 was done this year, right?
We amended it I can't remember if it was late last year or this year. We amended it to add additional uses on the exit 98, yeah.
So how has that worked? So are we supposed to get a notice of anything that's changed in there? Because I never received anything.
The city can amend zoning maps by doing,
Gotcha.
a public agenda, which we do an agenda, but at that time, I don't think there was any notices individually to the property owner.
I got you. Well, I'll just go ahead, and Bill's done a good job, and Shelley is also, but that's the problem with the footprint of that property is the restaurants. And I know there's probably some out there, but I think it would probably benefit everybody if we could open up some of the uses, because here's our common thread. None of us want empty buildings, boarded up empty buildings for sure, and that's what we have right now. And we could literally have this for 8 years because Arby's has got it leased out. We just own the building. They lease the property. So, and legally they could stay there 8 years, and I don't want that, and I know y'all don't want that neither. So we would like to try to get Bill involved, and that's why we got him, because I think he'd make a good investor for the town. So I think Goodlettsville would benefit.
And I've also taken phone calls from other restaurants, like there's Gumbo, but it's,
Lanyap,
yes.
Yeah.
He wanted the site, he just couldn't afford it, but he would love to go there. He was gonna make the size work, but that was another local person that contacted me.
And another thing, the reason why it went dark, they call it closed, is because they wanted to stay, actually, they wanted to keep that one open, to be honest with you, and they wanted to close Rivergate. But since Rivergate's got all this new development going on, they decided they're gonna keep that one and close this one, so. And the sales really went up good, and then they started after COVID and never rebounded. So that was kind of the reason they decided to pull the plug on it. But the Rivergate expansion over there and that development really made them to kind of keep that one and close to Goodlettsville. That was kind of the big deal. Anyway, if y'all got any questions, I'll be glad to answer anything.
Well, I think if you've gotten a lot of comments from us, I don't know if you got any direction. I would prefer not to see a financial institution myself. The other items I'm neither hot nor cold on. I could go either way. I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in on that or not. But I agree, we don't want an empty building. We want to see something.
Well, thank you all for your time. I really do appreciate it. I know Ms. Henderson's do as well. And if you have any further questions, Adam knows how to get me. I'd be happy to get site plans of different users and anything that I can do to help you kind of see visually what we're trying to describe. And so happy to help in any way. And we'll confer about it, talk about it, and see which direction we would like to pursue. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
all right, similar request, different location, Rivergate Parkway, the Impact Church, used to be the old movie theater back in the day. Mr. Patel's here to talk about this. Right now, of course, it's in the same situation, it's in the overlay. It's a church, so it's a non-conforming use there now. They're going forward, pushing it to extend that to another church facility. Another church can take it over and continue it on. But there was some requests about possibly, and this is the property, I mean, kind of highlight it. Here's Vietnam Veterans, so it's underneath it back there. Here's I-65. And the goal would be to turn it, I think they'd like to use it, the church, continue that, but also do like a civic center, like a event center, conference center. They did some quick renderings, kind of some ideas. You know, they'd want to upgrade the building, of course, to make it look, feasible for that, and then do some internal stuff, just due to the use of the building, the square footage. You know, church operations are limited. You know, they don't use the building 7 days a week, so there's thoughts about possibly expanding that use. And this would be another one. I'll go back and show the map. There are surrounding properties. Here's the interstate overlay. It follows I-60 or 386. So there are, you know, these two properties back here that are within it also. So if we did a map amendment, you know, to remove those, or a text amendment to allow the proposed use. Mr. Patel's here to kind of explain his thoughts on it. So.
Good evening again, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. So this property has come in our city again. It's currently operated as the Impact Church. Pastor Derek Faison and his wife are promoting speakers of faith. He's actually retiring, downsizing. The church is actually closing. So we had an opportunity to put a offering on it, looking at closing sometime in the middle of this month. We have our own small church right now on Dickerson Road, 3840 Dickerson Pike. It's called the Belshire Center. We only operate, or shall we say, we get together twice a month for our little, maybe 100, 110 families. But this is a lot more better for us. It's right in our neighborhood. We've got a hotel right next to it, which is the Comfort Suites. We actually got the Country Inn Suites. So my vision is to see how we can utilize this building. If the city is open for allowing us to turn this to a civic center / a mini conference center, would love that opportunity to work with the city, with the travel tourism, with the chambers of commerce, hopefully get a helping hand with them for professional business uses to bring them into our city Monday through Friday. The convention center in Nashville, they kind of shy away everybody that's 200-300 people, conferences, and they all, they either go to Opryland, but even then, Opryland don't really take small ones. With the amount of hotels that we have in Goodlettsville, with Home 2 hopefully breaking ground in the next month or so, our goal was to do a conference center, a real one, but because of COVID, the gun range came there. Stepping stone, I believe that this 3-acre site could be a good home, a starting point for our city, especially for a small civic center, conference center kind of setting. If anybody's familiar with Lebanon, there used to be an old movie theater in Lebanon that they've now changed. It's called the Capitol Theater. I'm not sure if anybody knows, but they do a lot of theatrical shows and stuff over there too. And again, with the amount of old school that we have in our city, I think it could bring value to us. Again, even if this is not an option as a civic center, our church would still continue using it, but for use maybe twice, 3 times a month, it would kind of be a dead use. So I'd like to see what our board would think about, planning commission would think about possibly moving forward or engaging something with the civic center, or anything else. I'm open to anything. I just want to make sure that we can work hand in hand that will bring more travel tourism to our department. Right now, I know the ladies at Travel and Tourism said that anytime they have to do a meeting, it's either at the hotel with Dr. O'Neill at his courtyard or maybe at the gym. So hopefully this could be a valuable thing, and we are allocating on putting quite a lot of funds into this place, so it's just another added value, but I wanted to bring it to the Planning Commission before we went for formal request. Even if we didn't do a zoning change, we still, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Adam, by church use, we can still use it as a church use?
That's correct, yes. It's a non-conforming church. Another church can pick up and take over. Yeah.
Tell me again where this is located?
It's Impact Church. Here's 386. You turn under 386, the little shell on the corner. It's the Impact Church. Used to be the movie theater here, right along I-65. Here's the exit 98 or 96.
Yeah. I thought that's where it was.
Regeneration Church just originally took over this side, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, how big is that building, roughly?
It's 27,000 square feet, plus minus. It's got a lot of small spaces, so even if we had small conferences where during the week, you got a smaller room, you got a larger room, but the larger chapel, shall we say, that has the seating there right now, it has about 400 seating capacity on a theater style. And even then, all the chairs are not there, but I think it can be easily set up nice for 250, 300 people round table seating. And, our city probably does need something like this. Again, we want to run this professionally. We don't want to try to do or bring any riffraff in over here. We've had the Belshire Center on 3840 Dickinson Road since 2017. And, we've used it, we do rent it out. But we always make sure we kind of screen all the renters and tenants, because we're not trying to get into any nightclub scene or anything like that. It's all got to be a professional style. And again, this is more geared towards our businesses and bringing more travel tourism to our city. So, any support that we can get from our city, obviously you would like to see if the city of Goodlettsville would help with the travel tourism. Chamber of Commerce maybe even take some offices in the building too. Just to hope, just to ask. So I figured before we go to a formal request, see what kind of appetite we have, if I'm going in the right direction, or do I just need to cut it off right here?
Any comments from the board? I can see the benefit of this myself. I think that this is I don't know if this area would be suitable for other things. It's, that would be included in this interstate overlay. That's just my opinion.
Mr. Chairman?
In that overlay, is it a list of what it's zoned for now, kind of like what you have?
It's the same, yeah. They could do, that property's big enough, so it could support a lot. I think they're wanting to use the existing facility. Yeah, but it would be big enough for all the uses, hotels, all that. Just access there is not as great as like if it's on the frontage Rivergate Park West. You got to turn back to get to it. But yeah, someone could redevelop that. Our comprehensive plan actually has it in our regional center, you know, for mixed-use redevelopment in the future, but I know that's not what they're proposing at this point, so.
I would say I would be open to working with you with what your plan looks, what your vision is.
And if all goes well, you know, obviously in the future, we're more than welcome to try to tear it down, build something brand new again, but it's a stepping stone. We do know it needs a lot of attention in it, which we have no problem renovating it. You know, even over the past few years, building the Starbucks, we did take over the Caputo's building last year. So we actually own the Caputo's building, and then other family members lease it and operate it. So, but you know, we want to try to bring as much value as we can. But when I thought about this, I thought, you know what, the best and highest use is see what we can do for our city. Again, we're open for it. It's just a stepping stone, and if it works out good, it's good. And I do believe the overlay, Mr. Adam, is that going to be just as what's at the Rivergate Mall, where it's like 7 stories high, or is this going to be different?
The long-term or comprehensive plan for it is the regional center. It's the regional center too. It allows up to 7 stories, like 25 units an acre, residential with commercial, but that had to be rezoned to get that, yeah.
Yes, sir. Well, you know, we own the property in front of it, which is a Comfort Suites Hotel, and then behind it, we've got another community member that owns the India Mart and the grocery store right there. So, you know, obviously combined, we've got all that space right there. Just want to try to see what we can do to make it nice, developed, and kind of go from there. As I say, the pasture's motivated to sell it. He's retiring. I think he spends most of his time in Texas right now. So every time we got to go there, we kind of lumbered until he turns the alarm off. We have to wait around for a little while. But again, we're looking at trying to close towards the middle to the end of the month. And then if we do that, I want to try to put everything we can in action. Work with some of the ladies, get some renderings done, maybe get some of your input too to see maybe we can be a different name. I mean, we just came out with Civic Center because civic centers around the country are smaller, more geared towards smaller cities. Again, we're open for it. This is just something that we came up with and go from there.
Dan, and I know you and I have talked about it more than once. And in theory, the project is, you know, very sound. The name Civic Center is fine. I can't tell you not to use it, but it comes with a connotation that it's publicly owned, talking about local government.
Yes, sir.
And like I said, I can't tell you not to use it, but I think it's going to become very confusing as to its operation and whose ownership is and so forth.
Well, we're hoping you guys can manage it for us instead. But whichever way it is, I mean, we're open. I mean, and I understand. I mean, I looked it up. The Civic Center is geared towards more of the governmental stuff. So again, that's the reason why I just thought Civic Center could be something else. We could call it a regional center. I mean, for all I know, we could just call it Goodlettsville Center and just kind of go from there. But that was just something that came out of our mind and says, okay, you know what, let's see what we can do to bring some more value to our city. So again, that's not set in stone. That's just something that I came up with. And AI does a lot of stuff nowadays, so I may ask AI and see what they think that they could do for us.
So I think I was pretty clear that I'm adamantly opposed to making any change to the overlay at exit 97, and I would say the same at exit 96. In the list 1 through 4, I don't really want any of that over there. But right now, at least in the list that Adam had put on the screen there, number 6 is hotels and motels. I guess maybe how to define hotels and motels. Motels we probably don't even allow anymore.
We do, but I think it's 150 room minimum.
Okay.
So a hotel's 120, so they're pretty large size. You don't usually see them that big.
We're not gonna have them. So realistically, I wouldn't mind changing number 6 to hotel and or convention center or something of that nature. But I don't want any of that other stuff there. I think meeting a need that this city has is good. And that's what I'm trying to maintain in the previous discussion. We have a need for restaurants. I want to maintain that. I think we have a need for a convention center that we just don't have right now. So I would be happy to help find a way to do that. And I think not adding 1 through 4, I don't think we need to do that on this exit either. but revising number 6 from hotels and motels to, if you want to leave hotels, I don't care, but hotels and/or convention center, I think that gets us where we need to go with this particular request. I would be in favor of what you're trying to do. I don't want it to open up any other doors. I don't want
Yes,
it to set any other precedents,
Yes,
and
sir.
I don't want anything else to happen that is detrimental to the citizens of this city.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Patel, yeah, I was, I guess, let down when that convention center kind of fell apart a few years ago.
Yes.
I too, yeah, I think this is a need for our area that we have been needing for a long time. I think it'd be very beneficial and bring a lot of success to the city, especially with the new project going on just across the street down the road there with the mall property. So you said it's 400 seats?
Well, the chapel, they've got 400 chairs in the chapel right now, and even then, there's still a lot of walking space in there.
Okay.
So it's a pretty big theater, and you know, if everybody's time permits, we'd love for everybody to do a walkthrough. We're not just jumping into it. We want to take a step back, make sure we do it right, color coordinations, you know, hire the right architect, right design team to make sure we do everything right, naming. So, but yes, it has the main hall, the main facility holds 400 seats. It's got classrooms and everything in there. You know, if you guys have time in the evening, just Google the center itself, 705 Rivergate Parkway, and you'll see pictures of the inside, small classrooms. It's got a little children's theater as well in there. So it's got 3 larger rooms. It's got classrooms. It's got about 7 classrooms in there. And then it's got office spaces upstairs too. Obviously, the main goal is to make sure how we can utilize it. It's got a welcome area, reception area too. So when you walk in, it's not like you're just walking into a big hall, big facility. So I think it can be done nice. The good thing about it is it's a good solid structure. It's a concrete block building, so you know it's the walls itself. You can't really just open them up without causing a lot of damage. But the structure of it is sound.
And I know that you spoke of the investment that your group was going to put into it.
Yes, sir.
Do you have an idea of what that number?
Well, right now we've got $1 million plus to put back in the building.
Okay.
And, you know, it may only take 700,000. It may take 1.5 million. We don't know. But whatever it takes, we're committed to doing that because this commitment is for long term. We live in the city. Majority of our investors are from the city, which is, when I say investors, it's our community. We've already got 95 of our community members that have already committed to it. And when we say committed, we've got not only the adults, but the children have committed. So we want to try to bring our youth back involved too. Get the youth involved, get them to kind of come in there, maybe learn a few things, make sure it's all done professionally. So not only is it an investment, but it's also an opportunity to grow our city in different ways too.
Okay, so one thing that I just wanted to ask you, you said about your group meeting there sometimes.
Yeah, we get together, shall I say quote unquote, we get together every Monday. We have an investment called TD Monday Investment Group, which owns 3840 Dickinson Pike. And we call that because we were part of the Trinity Lane, Dickinson Road area is where we all came from. Now we all expanded and moved upscale to Goodlettsville because I've got investments on Trinity Lane. We call that TD Monday, and we originally had 51 members. When we bought that building on Dickinson Pike, we actually cashed it out at that time too. We have a building that's probably worth $3 million sitting there. We've got a nice church that is wanting to lease from us. They actually have the church next door to us, so we're allowing them to use our church because their church got tore down during the tornado. And it may come into a long-term positive thing for them. But the investment that we have is not only for investment, for profit, but it's also for growth, keeping the community together. You know, everybody's got community needs. We've got our children that do their own stuff, but just making sure that everybody knows the values of where they came from, where they're going. Same thing with Goodlettsville. You're in Goodlettsville, you want to try to do what we can to help our city in every single way.
Yeah, I agree. I was just wondering because if there was a conflict in schedule.
We are open to move anytime, and we get together twice a month. Every 2 weeks on a Monday, we get together, just have maybe a 5-10 minute chit chat, but the rest of it's just party, drink, talk about business, eat chicken, drink beer. All right. But it's all professional. There's nothing that's ever out of hand. It's by 9 o'clock, you got to be home. You got to make sure you all drive home safely, and it's all interconnected. So luckily, touch wood, in the past 8 years of communication and operations that we did over there, we've been successful, and we've not had any issues with it whatsoever.
Well, thank you so much. I think it'd be a great thing.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You know, one of the things I like about this, I think it has the potential to have a great impact on local businesses. The people that will come to this place will have to eat somewhere, will have to sleep somewhere, will have to shop somewhere. And with trying to rebuild this Rivergate area, I think that could be a big plus.
Yes, sir, definitely. I mean, we're running professionally. Obviously, we'll hire staff, mainly for the business side of it. You know, that we want to make sure they're interconnected with Upperland Convention Center, Downtown Convention Center. You know, just any of the small little ones we get. We get 1 or 2 a week. It's going to be golden for us. We want them to stay in Goodlettsville, sleep in Goodlettsville, drink in Goodlettsville. That's more tax dollars that comes to our city and just grows. Hopefully in a few years, this place will be too small and we'll find another home for it too. So.
Any other comments? I appreciate you.
Thank you very much, and hopefully we'll talk to Mr. Adam and go for a formal request maybe next month. But once we take over the building, hopefully this month, we'll want to try to reach out to see, and if any of you got any input, please reach out to us, because we're more than happy to sit down with our planning commission and do what's best for our city instead of doing what we think's best.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you again. Good night.
Is this it?
Yeah, then we'll break for a few minutes and set up for our comprehensive plan meeting. You're all welcome to sit up here if you want to sit up here, if you want to sit in the crowd, either way, so.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and then we'll continue on with other aspects of the meeting.
Yeah, planning commission will be adjourned.
Sorry, what?
The planning commission meeting will be formally adjourned, yeah.
Do I have a motion to adjourn the planning commission meeting?
So moved.